3, 2, 1. Beep.
Cool.
All right, this is exciting.
Yeah, very exciting.
I got a lot of big whompers lined up here.
I don't think I've ever read a book as big as any of those on your table, just singular.
We're going to have to change that.
That's okay.
Welcome back to Talking Story. Hey, my name is John Minton, and that right there is my literary wingman. Look, the best producer on BookTube. It says so on bathroom walls all over, the globe. It's the globe. It's worldwide.
I really hope that's not true.
It's so true. It's absolutely true. And look, I don't even care if we talk about the Stormlight Archive Arc 1 today. I'm just showing you what's in your future. I'm just showing you the size of books that you're going to start reading.
This isn't my future. This is all you. I'm here
this is my past.
Watch I'm basically watching a video. I have no part in this.
Look, this is I have given myself some time. I finished up the first arc of the Stormlight Archive, all 5 books. I've got them lined up here. I thought about maybe, right after Wind and Truth, maybe I should talk about Wind and Truth, but then it's like, I'll let it sit for a while. People seem to have like some pretty disparate ideas, polarizing book a little bit, and I let that sit for a little bit. And then I thought, I should just start to take this as a whole. Like, what is this Arc 1 of the Stormlight Archives for me? How does it come together? How does it fit together? So here's what I want to do.
Okay.
I kind of want to go over my final thoughts on that now that I finished Arc 1. And then I want to rank my favorite to my least favorite of the 5 in Arc 1 of the Stormlight Archives.
Oh, all right. I have no opinion on the matter, so
I'm hoping you have a lot to say.
I'm going to have very little to say. Unless you surprise me with your picks, which I don't think you will.
Well, I think it's probably very obvious and evident what my number 1 pick is.
I think I know what your number 1 pick is.
Yeah, but so should we just get into it? Should we just get rolling?
I suppose there's nothing else I can offer you. I say go for it.
Yeah, there's very little you can offer me. I feel like overall, as an arc, as the beginning half of the Stormlight Archives, this might be it for me because he's taking a break and then it's going to be years between books when you try and write something this large. And who knows? This could be the end of the road for me. So I'm feeling like the ending, did it satisfy me in that way? If I don't make it through the back half of this, overall, I kind of really felt this was a top 5 fantasy series for me in my all-time list. I kind of think it's definitely still a top 10. I think it's going to be pretty hard to break that top 5 now with some of the new, with some of the new series. Once I get a little bit more into the extended realm of the Eldlings or the extended Malazan or the, just some of these series, the Wars of Light and Shadow as we get further into that, the top 5 spots are going to be very, very tough. A lot of jockeying to do, and I kind of feel like how this ended up for me, I still believe it's a top 10 all-time series for me at this point. I still think it's a really impressive achievement overall as a series, as Arc 1. I'm not sure it's going to crack that top 5. If it does, it barely ekes it. It barely ekes it in. I know that.
It was looking like it was going to at one point.
At one point, it really did. And let me say the things I love about this series and still love about this series. The overall theme of this series of introducing us to a shattered plane, a land that has a cyclical type of fall and rise to empire, a consistent crumbling of empire and then building back up again. This broken land, the shattered plane, and the seriously flawed, broken people on that shattered land that have to come to terms with their broken nature of their psyche, their broken nature within, to have any chance of stepping up to where destiny needs them to be, to save this world one more time and not let it fall off the precipice again, right? In this cyclical fashion. I really love that. I really love the characters because of how flawed and broken they are. The world building for me is off the chart. We have this long time lore all the way back to thousands of years as we go further on into the series and mysteries become unearthed. And we get to know more and more about what happened before, more and more, not only terrestrially on this planet of Roshar, but what happened before metaphysically over these like godlike beings, or these I'm trying to keep it as non-spoiler as I possibly can, but are these shards of a celestial being that now are vying for who comes out on top. So there's many layers of broken. There's celestial being shattered into shards. These shards vying with each other for supremacy. These broken people on this shattered plane, this broken world that it's had cyclical fashion of falling of empire. From past wars, a complete type of people that have been basically enslaved after one of these rising and falling of empire. So over and over again, we get to meet characters and we get to meet situations that have been broken and ripped asunder. And in the beginning, as we learn of this world and we start to see our main characters, and I'm going to say our main characters here, there are three. There is Dalinar Kholin, there is Kaladin, and there is Shallan. And they're introduced in the Way of Kings. And we start to find the structure of this, that we're going to take one of these main characters and we're going to get their backstory going all the way back, where they came from. Why are they broken? Why are they carrying this baggage? Why are they carrying this grief or guilt or something so severe, trauma-wise, that it has somewhat cracked and broken their psyche that they have to come to terms with to be able to step up and do what they need to do? So as the first book, Way of Kings, we ease in and we start to get the entire backstory of Kaladin. Now, that's not all. Obviously, these are massive books. These are multi-POV books. We're not only following Kaladin's story and his past history of where he came from and why he carries this baggage, but we're also very closely following Dalinar Kholin, and we're following Shallan. Each of them have a story. Each of them are broken. Each of them are trying to figure out what's going on in this world, trying to understand what's come before them in this world so they can get answers of their present. So it is extremely effective for the first three books because we have the three linchpin characters that we're introduced to in the Way of Kings. We can do a backstory of Kaladin. We can do a backstory of Shallan. We can do a backstory of Dalinar. Now, for someone that is absolutely known for endings to the point where his endings get a catchphrase, this writer, Brandon Sanderson, is known for having the Sanderlanche as the end. So for someone that is known for endings, for me, this series somewhat tapers off in the final two books. And the reason that is, for me, again, is because this is somewhat different than epic fantasies that I've read in the past. This is not only happening on Roshar, this is a shared cosmere, a shared cosmos, if you will, with different planets that different things are happening on. But they are all interconnected because this is the realm of the celestial being that was shattered. So how do they tie together? So it's almost as if we're not only looking at an epic fantasy, we're looking at something that has a long time shared world. Almost, and I've compared Brandon Sanderson, for me, he's comparable to Stan Lee or to Jack King Kirby, somebody that has created these infinite worlds, this entire sweeping universe where these characters can cross over and meet each other from world to world hoppers. And they are connected, and it can happen. And as the series moves forward, it happens more and more. But there are some pitfalls that you can fall into. If I'm comparing it to like DC's Infinite Earths or Marvel's Multiverse, if you're comparing it to something that sprawling and that large, and then you're adding the epic fantasy base to it, right, and building up from there, for me, there's some pitfalls you can fall into that, and he doesn't escape them when he gets towards the end. I think we're very close to 3 5-star books here to the beginning. I do have some favorites, and we are going to shuffle them around a little bit. But by the time he starts to get to the end, I kind of think what happens here is the pitfalls he's fallen into. You've had your linchpin characters. Now, these are not just following 3 characters. These are massive books. They're massive POVs. Dalinar Kholin had a brother who was king first, Gavilar, and he has his brother's wife, Navani. He has 2 sons, Renarin and Adolin. There are many, many characters, and many actually. Sometimes you actually follow those characters in their POVs, but they are tertiary characters. They are like B or C characters in these first 3 books. They serve a purpose for the main character. Kaladin's parents, Shallan's brothers, Shallan's teacher, Jasna. All of these characters that are around them and can be very important, and you can follow their POVs here or there. Their purpose in these first 3 for me is to be a dramatic device for these 3 linchpin characters that we have. Why are they broken? How do they define themselves? How do others see them? What type of help do they have? What type of grief does Dalinar carry for being not a great father? That's what his sons are doing there. Will he find love? That is what Navani's doing there. These questions are revolving around and buttressing up our 3 linchpin characters. Now, when we move to like the last 2 for me, and we start to get a backstory of people like Shonai and Vinley and Zeth here in the end, and we start to focus a lot on Navani, and we start to not spend as much time as what we've come to think of as our main cast, it starts to lose a little bit of its allure for me. I'm not saying entirely, I'm not saying completely, but as we all experienced the MCU, this massive shared universe, after Endgame, and after we start moving on, and after we start moving away from these characters that we've all taken this huge journey with, and we start to have new faces that are revolving in, some of the allure is gone. Some of that oomph just isn't there anymore. Ant-Man and Wasp just don't have the impact that Iron Man or these other ones did at the beginning. And I think that's a little bit of a pitfall he falls into here as he starts to focus, as he moves on some of the tertiary characters that were there to define our linchpin characters, as they become what everything revolves around in the back 2 books of this. I think that's part of it. Also, the other problem is that in shared universes like this, you can just start to get a bit of fatigue, and I think some of that starts to set in a little bit, and that could be because I read them so close together. So it's a double-edged sword. I read them so close together so I could track everything, and that was nice instead of waiting these long years in between. But at the same time, there's a bit of fatigue that starts to set in, especially by the final book. And also, something that he does do as an artist and as a writer, that he kind of lets you know. As a writer, the one thing I really do admire about Brandon Sanderson is his architecture, his plotting. Everything does tend to pay off. Everything is there for a reason. Every breadcrumb laid down, he's going to reference back to and have it pay off for you. So, did we get entire payoffs by the end? A lot of them, yes. And a lot of these things that he laid down, he let us know that it might not be what we were expecting. It might not be what we wanted. He might subvert some of our expectations for the ending of this series. So all of that was kind of there with characters that were somewhat shattered to begin with, that start to build themselves back up into these huge, overpowered type of warriors and these soldiers. Their psyche, if it cracks again, maybe they're not going to be able to wage battle the way they were in the earlier books. And these types of breadcrumbs were laid down for us early on, that the ending may be going that way. We maybe just didn't want to see it or enjoy it or want it, but it is a subversion that I do believe he tipped his hand at and planned very, very, very early on. So there's that. And then the other thing, as far as when you have this huge sprawling thing, is that at the end of something, if you're going to think about all these breadcrumbs paying off and all of these breadcrumbs resolving, if you have this huge shared universe where things are just going to continually grow and become moving forward as a story, you have to leave a lot of things unresolved. You have to maybe have some characters that are out in the hinterlands that could pop up in another book on another world somewhere else. That's the beauty of a shared universe. That's what you get to do when you get to move your toys around from your toy box to your sandbox and all over the place, and you get to move them around and have fun with them. So there's that aspect as well. Was it a satisfying conclusion to the first arc? That can be debatable, because he actually left a lot of plates spinning on sticks so he could come back to them and use these toys again in the future. And that is another, that if you look at these huge shared comic universes, there's a reason why over and over again, some of them will start over at issue 1. Fatigue has set in. We all want a clear space to start over. This story has gone on for a while and we kind of need a reset. So this is something that takes a bit of that pitfall by the end. He can't wrap everything up because it's not time to recess. This story is going to move on. He does have to have the pieces different places to where they can be spread out across the Cosmere and continue to be used. So maybe there was a bit of resolution that didn't completely satisfy us. So that's overall, those are kind of my thoughts of the series as a whole. So from here on, like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to start breaking down what my favorites are. What do you think there? Should we drop something in and thank some people first before we come back?
Why don't we do that? We've heard what you think of the whole series. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back when he starts ranking things.
Just a quick break in the action to thank all of our correspondents, directors, and producers on Patreon. These people keep the lights on. They make decisions for us because we don't know what we're doing. We're not great at making the decisions around here. The decisions all the way from what I'm going to read next, what the book club of the month Patreon pick is going to be, but all the way up to video ideas and what we're going to do here on the channel coming up for you. If you're interested or you want to find out how you can be a part of this, right down there in the description box, click the Patreon link. It's got all the answers for you. And once again, thank you to all of these fine people that are helping us build the channel, our correspondents, directors, and producers. Okay. We've done some rearranging, and I've conferred with Chully. Chully gets votes.
How? But then it's not your list. If another entity gets votes,
it's mine and Chully's list.
No, I'm not making a thumbnail for that.
He absolutely gets votes. Okay, look, let's get right into it. I think everybody knows my number one favorite book out of the Stormlight Archives Arc 1. You know, look at the shirt. Look at the banner.
What are we going to do? With your number one?
Should we cut this?
It is your list. You do what you wish.
I'm going to start with number 1 and go down.
Okay. Then I won't stop.
This is my favorite book. I'm going to start at number 1.
Okay.
And look, it's obvious. My favorite book of the Stormlight Archives is Oathbringer, Book 3. Look, I know this is not everybody's favorite, but for me, Dalinar Kholon's journey is just everything. This book, just for an older reader particularly, he is looking back on life, looking back on mistakes, trying to understand where he got there, So many times in a lifelong lived, there are times you want to forget and move away from something. He's having to overcome that. He's trying to do the best for his not only his sons and possible new love, but from the very beginning, he's having these almost ecclesiastical visions that he has to come to terms with, and he has to understand what the higher powers want of him. And he cannot even come to grips with that until he comes to terms with what he himself has gone through. And in this book, Book 3, Oathbringer, and we really get to delve into his backstory. We really get to see that path he has walked. We really get to see how much journey he has traveled by being like this warlord that his brother the king sent out to take care of these hotspots, and what he had to do to be successful at that, and the toll it took on him, and some of the mistakes he had made there and how they weigh him down. It goes dark. I feel like this is absolutely the darkest book of the 5, and I dig that. I dig a man that has lived, that has paid a price and looking back over his life and coming to terms with it. And again, books 1 through 3, I think are so close to 5 stars for me. This would absolutely be a 5-star. And that Sanderlanche is there. That satisfying conclusion is there. It's almost like that in-game type of escalation at the end where we have that moment of pure set piece joy where everything just starts to go. And it's also married with an internal, personal character reveal for Dalinar at the end when he does, I don't want to give too much away, but he has not only as a leader and as a warlord, this huge battle at the end that he has to overcome something in the physical world that this builds up to through the rising action, but he also has an internal journey that he has to come to grips with at the end, and it is just done so beautifully. It is not only is there action, but there's an emotional core to it with this character journey that you have. So the Sanderlanche is two-pronged, not only physical and the big pow, but internal with an emotional core after this arduous journey of this man that has lived this life and is looking back over it. And also, there's a bit of a meta feature here. There's a bit of a meta feature in all of these books. But a bit I really appreciated in this one. This one just hit on all cylinders for me. It is my favorite of the series, bar none. And I would give it a complete 5-star. Blew my hair back. No two ways about it. Not a shock, right?
No, not a shock at all. I mean, I knew that was going to be your number 1. So
you knew it was going to be number 1.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Number 2? What are you gonna? Do you want to guess or no?
Way of Kings?
Words of Radiance is my number 2.
Oh, I should have known, of course.
Words of Radiance is my number 2. I would have to say this one is this, again, totally 5-star read. This is Shallan's backstory. I actually really enjoyed the character of Shallan. I know she turned some people off, but for me, it was a really great journey with her. And also, the other POVs just shone out in this. Kaladin and what was going on within as well. And the Sanderlanche in this one, same. By the end of this, we have a Sanderlanche that completely changes the world order going forward in this series, which is what you want a Sanderlanche ending to do, right? Everything's going to be different going forward by the end of this book. We're going to have some emotional depths with Shallan's journey. We're going to have some understanding as this world starts to open up and show us some of this strange magic system that this world has introduced us to in World of Kings, where we can almost have our emotions are physical around us, and we can draw power from certain things and join to certain bits and be empowered by that. This more of it coming to light, more of it is understanding. It starts off with something that's a bit of a shock. It's got some twists and some turns and some shocks to it with some characters that you got to know and love from the first book. It just delivers on everything you want from a book 1. It's that perfect escalation from that introductory book of a book 1. And just, it shows out in every way. It's so close to a 5-star, but Oathbringer edges it out. So Words of Radiance is my number 2 pick. Now, number 3, what do you think? You can try again.
I'm going to go Way of Kings.
Yes, now you know it. Now it's coming up. The number 1. Why is this part, like I said, the beginning of this series, the first 3 books of this series, so close to 5 stars, each and every one of them. This one, it's got so much heavy lifting to do. Sanderson is known for his hard magic systems, and this one is as quirky as any I've ever seen him put together. So we have so many questions about the magic system that he doesn't necessarily answer like he does in some other of his series early. You have to really go on to really get the gist of this. But this is, so it's got that to introduce. It's got characters to introduce. It's got a world to introduce. And I think the very beginning of it, for me, has a bit of a stumbling block because it seems to almost start over a good 3 times. It seems to have like a bit of a prologue and then let me see exactly how. Well, these are packed in so tight I probably can't. But I think it's a prelude and then a prologue and then it's almost like it starts over several times before you actually really get rolling. Let me just check the table of contents here. You've got a preface. And then, well, no, that's okay. That you got a prelude and then a prologue.
This is the most unprofessional.
Right? It starts over several times, and I just couldn't. It was such a sticking point for me, and it kind of in those preludes and prologues that you're kind of starting from the beginning over and over again. It's not easy to grab onto anything. It really throws you into the deep end in some situations that don't pay off until much later into the series. So it was kind of a beginning for me that I had to kind of overcome a little bit. So for that, it's got to ooch below that 5-star. But then once it does get rolling, this is Kaladin's backstory, and Kaladin's backstory is an amazing hero's journey with an unbelievable emotional core, and it does pay off in ways by the end, like when it's his journey through Bridge 4 and the Bridge 4 guys, the Teft and Scar and Moash and Rock and all these people you meet, these tertiary characters around him that become enormously important as the series moves forward. They allow us to see Kaladin through their eyes. So we're able to define and understand this character, not only by what's going on with him internally, but as the other characters around him start to rely on him and see him in a certain way, we start to understand him and build him up a little bit. So it's just, once it gets rolling, it's done unbelievably well. Shallan is introduced in this bizarre type of heist story that is very engaging. I find it very engaging. And then Dalinar with this religious fervor that he's fighting through to try to understand what the world requires of him at this point in time. All of it was just such a great introduction to this world. And then the world itself, the Shattered Plane, so many mysteries of what went on before, so many shoes that Sanderson gets to drop as he unveils these mysteries as you go forward. And this book did such an amazing job of introducing those, not through the main story only, but also through some interludes, and you start to put some puzzle pieces together as you move all over the world and meet people like Taravanian and other characters here and there through these interludes are very enlightening as well. So I enjoyed the structure once we got past those several stuttering beginnings from the jump. So after that was out of the way, I was full on, completely in.
There's something down there. It's not the submarine we were looking for. It's something else. We're all sick. And we're hearing things. Bad things.
That leaves us 2 left. 2 left. What do you think?
I think I know what's next. This is the third one we're on, right? There's 2 left.
Yeah, this would be book 4. My 4th favorite.
I'm gonna go Wind and Truth.
You would be absolutely correct.
Okay.
Wind and Truth is my 4th favorite. And I know this has been somewhat of a polarizing book. Some people were very disappointed in this book. Again, I think for me, there are several different types of sub-themes that are going on in this that he tipped his hat to very early. The importance of art to our understanding of the spiritual and natural world around us. That pays off here. Characters broken so badly they have to completely reinvent themselves. So their end of this climactic hero's journey may not be what we all expected. It might have been somewhat subverted. All of these things were told early. Now, it is in 4th place, so I did have some issues with it. I do think, and I this is one of the things I truly admire about this artist and this author, is that he works in plain view. I do think his craft matters quite a bit to him. And I do think some of the special projects and other things that he does in his spare time, just for fun, he's still working and still writing. And I think that's experimentation for him to grow and become a better artist, a better author, a better writer in different aspects. When I read those special secret projects, I could see him working on different structures and storytelling and dialogue. And this, I think, paid off in some ways. I thought there was some truly beautiful dialogue dependent upon the character, particularly when Hoyt is waxing philosophical. I thought there was some really beautiful work here done with dialogue. And then he is an author that produces. He is an author that finds the chair and sits down and cranks out work. And sometimes I think that speed and that fervor at which he works with can come in at cross purposes of what he's trying to do. There is some dialogue here that could just, I could say to you, buddy, like, I mean, literally, it takes you out of a fantasy world because it is vernacular that we were here in our everyday lives here or there sometimes. And I understand he wants his prose to be approachable because some of the concepts he's dealing with here are pretty far out there. I mean, we're dealing with a physical realm. We're dealing with a cognitive realm where everything that as we understand it, it's almost like Carl Jung's ideas have a realm of their own. What we believe and how we define our physical reality and ourselves have their own realm because it's all of like a collective subconscious or unconscious way that we have created in a cognitive realm. And then above and beyond that, we have the spiritual realm. So this is vastly layered with not only physical characters, but the magic system works with, like I say, the shattered shard of a deity, and then little bits beyond that we're tapping for magic over 3 realms of existence and reality. There's a lot of high concept here of what's going on, not only above and beyond the fantasy situation that we're trying to resolve. So just the stage that we are setting has a lot of high concept to it. So I understand why he wants his prose to be absolutely accessible as possible, because he's dealing with some high concepts that he wants all of us to understand. But there are moments in this that it took me out of the book because of his dialogue was too just everyday that we would recognize talking to people in our everyday lives. It would take us out of that. When you do subvert things or you don't completely tie up an ending because you want to have this sprawling universe still active, this is just a stepping stone in that sprawling universe, so you can't really tie up all the threads. These kind of things can be a little bit problematic if you're trying to wrap up everything in a satisfactory way. The backstory here of Szeth, I found the same situation. Now, I love Szeth as a character, but the backstory for me, I found to be a little bit, it caused a pace problem for me because it had a bit of a video game feel for me, almost, of moving from one boss battle to another, getting past stages. and it just wasn't inventive enough to keep me turning pages at a very, very quick rate like some of the other of the book was. The other thing I would say is this use of the spiritual realm. He had so many characters there to be enlightened about themselves and their world and what's going on. And he could do that by using the dramatic device of the spiritual realm, because you can see all times and all places and all times. There is a way that I found it extremely satisfying and very enlightening, because from the very beginning of The Way of Kings, I wanted to understand this rise and fall, this circular type of situation of this disaster that comes. I wanted all the answers, and I wanted to understand it, how it works. And in this, using that dramatic device of the spiritual realm and traveling through different time zones and things like that, I got those answers. So it was very satisfactory, but at the same time, it was somewhat compressed. We had so many characters in the spiritual realm dealing with it that that setting for me got a bit overused, and I didn't find the allure of it coming towards the end of it, because I had so many character point of views there experiencing that type of thing. I would have liked more variety, I guess, unless we were going to have that moment where everyone was together, which would have been satisfying as well, which, you kind of expect that. But he did some, there was some subversions of things that we accepted or expected. So there's a lot going on here that I could see, and I can understand the criticism or have the problems with, but still in all, I do think this wraps up so much in such a satisfactory way. I love huge, sprawling universes. I love where each and every one of these characters ended up. These three pillar characters I talk about, Dalinar and Shallan and Kaladin, their long journeys through all of these books, where they ended up here for me, completely satisfying. I really understand their motivations, their journey, why they would end up there. I'm happy with where they ended up. I see the reasoning, and it's satisfying to me. And I see possibilities for them broader through the Cosmere, which makes me happy. And some people are going, I kind of feel like now it's just like you got to watch all the Marvel shows and all the Marvel movies to really see what's going on. For me, this excites me. I'm ready for Ghost Bloods. I'm ready for what happens next. And if I see some familiar faces pop up, that gives me a tingle. I'm excited for that. So much of this absolutely worked. I will say, the themes of the importance of art and the themes of these characters moving away from just the physicality of a final battle to something else, something more spiritual, something more metaphysical, worked for me. A lot of it did work for me. So that's why it is my number 4. I do think he tied up a lot of things. I do think there were problems. A new editor working very, very quickly, subverting expectations on a regular hero's journey, which he did lay breadcrumbs very early on that could happen. But still in all, I see it, I understand it, I respect everyone's opinion. But for me, a lot of this absolutely worked. And I was overall pretty greatly satisfied with the end. And that leaves us with my least favorite, which is Rhythm of War.
Which you hated every moment of.
No, not at all. There are. Will this be a top 10 series for me? Yes. As the Kickstarters come about, will I continue to get the very nice additions from Dragonsteel as we move on till I have the all 5, the whole series? Yeah, I probably will, because it does mean enough to me. So even my least favorite is still, there's a lot here that's impressive. Where this went wrong for me, the backstory is, again, Ashonai and Vinley. It is that flip side of the coin in this conflict. These people that from one of the earlier conflicts have been enslaved, and now we're going to see the other side of this conflict through their eyes and try and get some understanding of that. I understand the intent. I appreciate the intent. It just was not exciting for me. Once we got past those 3 pillar characters and we were unearthing their backstory and who they were, and we moved on, except for, I will say in this, Adeline's story in this one of the sons of Dalinar is a true MVP here. He had a great storyline. I truly enjoyed it. It was amazing. He really showed up and shown out. And so it can happen. Like, he was a major POV here. But for me, this one, I had some issues with. The backstory of Ashonai and Vinley, not that engaging for me. The main storyline of Navani and her scientific experimentation, not very engaging for me. So while there were some amazing things, the ending of this book, again, the Sanderlanche, wow. Huge set piece action coupled with, yet again, a huge emotional core moment and revelation for one of our three main pillar characters that just kind of brought tears and made you think about your own past life and your own relationships and things like that. So absolutely amazingly effective. But just to get up to it was a bit of an arduous journey for me on this one, because he's very well known for his hard magic systems. I think in a world that is so hard to understand sometimes, in a world that can come at us so fast and not be understandable, I do think Brandon Sanderson loves to understand his worlds. And the mad architect in this book went above and beyond to explain to us every way that world works, as far as the science behind the magic and how it's all come together and why it comes together in this way. He wanted us to be comfortable and understand and give us some concrete footing to have underneath us as we move forward into the end of this series. And for me, I could have just done with a little bit more wonder and not had so much of the scientific experiment spelled out for me. Now, there was some good interplay between some characters. There was some nice siege moments. There was some other things. The ending blew my hair back. But overall, this was like my least favorite, the toughest to get through for me. Rhythm of War.
So overall, hated the series is what I'm hearing.
I mean, absolutely not. Overall, gonna be a top 10 series. Don't know if it'll crack that top 5 again now that I've finished Arc 1. Humbled. I think it's an achievement. I am look, I can stand back and look at this and truly be humbled by this man's imagination, and his discipline to get it all out, and his creativity and his willingness to continue to work and stretch himself and try different things as the series goes on and subvert expectations of what we would all think a hero's journey would be at the end and have something different come at us. There's so much that I admire and respect about this series, and there are moments that I will carry with me forever that I will not talk about here because, I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't read it. But if you haven't gotten into this yet, or if you haven't finished it yet, and maybe you're hearing some things that make you think about, maybe it's one I could skip, I would absolutely say do not. I would highly recommend it. I find overall an amazing journey, an amazing ride, a journey before destination you should absolutely take. That's where I would come down on it.
I mean, I to kind of piggyback off of what you said, that like no matter what, this is still an achievement. It's a massive achievement. I mean, without even reading it, like the amount of books that this man has written in a relatively short amount of time, and the literal universe that he has created, regardless of whether you liked the ending to this first arc, is still astounding. You can't take away what the man has done.
And it's packed with high octane emotional moments because they coined a term. If you get a term coined for your endings, if you get, hey, that's a Sanderlanche coming your way, he frickin' comes across a lot of the time and knocks it out of the park with these emotional moments and these set piece action moments to the end. And he absolutely does that again and again and again. It's just the final book went a little bit of a different way. And we started to see that a little bit. Even in Mistborn Era 2, we started to get Sanderlanches that revolved around more of personal journeys and revolutions to a character as opposed to something huge in the physical world. So we started to see him not only conjoining those with a big set piece, but moving towards like, oh, your big ending is going to be this epiphany that the character has in a character moment. So there is some of that in the end, when maybe some people were expecting that huge pow, and which, like I say, a lot of it personally worked for me.
Interesting. Well, I would say I'll pick it up sometime, but I probably won't.
I can't imagine you would.
But I appreciate watching this video anyway.
Yeah. Well, let me know what you think. Did you finish it? Are you thinking about it? Are you in the middle of it and wondering if you should finish it? Do you just think I'm completely off base on a couple of these books? Let me know. I love the back and forth, and I love the magic of these books hit us all so differently. We all bring our own past and our own souls and our own heart to the reading of this and the enjoyment of this art. So it's going to hit us all a little bit differently. So there is no right, there is no wrong. It basically just how it hit for us. So hit me up in comments. Let me know how it hit for you, or if you're thinking about getting into it. I'm going to answer every comment that comes in as quickly as I possibly can, because that's the whole point that we started this channel. And not only here, but you can catch us up on where are we? We're in Discord and
Twitter, Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, and Patreon, if you count that one.
Yeah, and Discord, all right down there. Check them out. Hunt us down on those platforms if you think I was so far off base and you comment here won't do it. And then the other little thing, after you comment, that little thumbs up button. Oh, if you would, man, hit that. I know most of the time you don't even think about it, but it does help us reach new people. It helps us bring new perspectives and new ideas into this discussion about story and art, and that makes us all the richer. And if this is maybe your first time or first couple times and you haven't hit that subscribe button, oh man, go ahead and do that. Join us for the read-alongs we have coming up. Join us for all the shenanigans we have here week in and week out, because this is an amazing group that just loves to hang out, talk about how story hits us, gets under our skin, changes the way we see the world and the people we share the world with. And if you would come in and bring your perspective, it only makes, like I said, all of us that much richer and stronger for your ideas and perspective to come on and join us. So hit that subscription button. It's going to give you a little bit of a tingle. There's no doubt about that when you join this group. And I guess, man, I'm gonna get a good workout from lifting all these back onto the shelf.
Well, the shelf's right behind. I can see the big hole in the shelf where they used to be.
There is a hole, yeah.
It's not that far.
There is a sander hole.
Let's not make that a term.
Thanks so much for joining us. My name is John. That is
Jacob. I don't even know why I'd say I didn't contribute anything to this video.
You know what? I'm just glad you were here with me.
I'm glad
it was
to be
moral
here.
support.
I'll take it.
It was more. Yeah, I will take it. I'll take all the moral support I can get. Thank you so much for joining us on Talking Story.